YouTube, I managed to get back in time, and I managed to get my kebab eaten. I was off scrounging. Well, scrounging is probably not the right word. Receiving donations to the channel. I'll talk about them later. Yeah, JP Devlin there talking about you spotted Rotosound boxes. You did indeed, and these are the ones you get 3 sets and a packet, a strap. And you've heard me complain about the strap millions of times because it's kind of plasticky. You kind of need to do something. I've tried putting WD-40 on it, talcum powder, sanding it, just because so it doesn't squeak on the body of the guitar. And for a rare occasion, this one's actually got like material ends of strap. But I'll get loads of guitars with those roto straps on it. Hey, Dave. How's it going? Start off with a song, I suppose. So I'm using my Buck Van Halen guitar, which is actually rather nice. I can now start my bucket. So cheers, Alex, for did a wee deal when I fixed the guitar for him. Swapped out a faulty preamp system thing, an acoustic, and he gave me a bottle of bucket and a packet of crunchies. I ate all the crunchies. Haven't drank the bucket yet, so here we go. Yeah, has that some chromatic vibes? I wish I knew it, and I know what you mean. Chromatic notes are ones that are like one, you don't leave any gaps between them. Unfortunately, it's just I have zero ability in the theory and the technicalness. I just kind of play notes, and if it sounds good, I'll play it again. If it doesn't sound good, I won't play it again. But thanks. Anyway, so cheers. It's roasting today. I've actually preempted sweating a bit, so I've actually got a towel there. So I'm not sitting there like I have been. It wasn't on a live stream. It was the other day I was doing a video. There was a drip on the end of my nose, and I was trying to get to not drip on my guitar. It was, at least it was my guitar. I was doing the red A5 the other day. Now we have two. That was delicious. Theory is scary. It is, yes. I do wish I knew something about it, but maybe that's why I write such unique riffs. No, it doesn't really. Yeah, so the guitar I'm using this week is one that I decided this was going to be the one I would keep. I've done loads of Iron Brewcasters and loads of Bucky casters, and I've never kept one. And I thought this was going to be the one. The Van Halen thing's putting me off because I can't do all that. If you played a gig with this, people are going to be shouting at you to play Eruption, and I don't know. I don't know how to do that sort of thing. So it's either if anyone wants to buy it, I'll maybe sell it, swap it for something. On failing that, I think I might paint it orange, paint the scratch plate blue, and then it'll be just an Iron Brew guitar. The guitar itself is fantastic. It's one of those. It's a Sun Mustang. Hold on. How's the? Hold on. Because it's hot in here, it's not even a pepper in tune. Yeah, so as you notice, this is the song I always play. Even though I change the chords about, don't necessarily play it right. Pretty much. Been a while since I played it, Claire. I've not really had that much to drink, so I should be able to play Freebird off the top of my head, but maybe not. Yes, it is a V. That's what I was out scavenging for today. It'll be next Tuesday's Trade Tuesday. The guy that I got the Jedson Telecaster off and a Squire Strat was chatting away. I was there for quite a while. And then when I got home, he recognised me from the videos and stuff. So he's like, I've got a couple of guitars you can just have rather than them just sitting in his garage and eventually getting binned. So I've got 3 of them to go through. I'll give you a wee preview. I've not actually had a chance to play any of them or even had a look at them. I literally put them in the car, in the backseat of the car, drove home, get a kebab, came in here, ate the kebab or half the kebab, went out to the car, brought them out, stuck them in the hall, and then pressed record, kind of in that order. But I'll get round to it. I want to talk about this. I want to try and punt this guitar first. So this is an Indian Encore, but it's exactly the same as there were Indian Sun Mustang guitars, which are quite desirable, and you start seeing them now kicking about sort of £200 mark. That's what this is. There was some something went on with the licensing rights with Fender, and Fender pulled out, blah, blah, blah. But this has still got a Fender-shaped headstock. Very high-quality neck. It's thin, though, which is annoying. It's like the bridge is like it's 50mm spacing between the two strings. It's normally 54, so it just doesn't quite fit. And the neck's the same. It's a little bit thinner, so it's full scale. It's just when you get up here, the neck doesn't really get wider the same way it normally does. So in some ways, it's easier to play up high. So that means that the pickups are stupid shapes. So these are the 3 original steel back pickups. This is the orange one, is one I've put in myself. It's reverse wound, reverse polarity, and so it's a coil adder. It's one of the earlier coil adders. So this one, when you've got this wee 3-way toggle switch here, in the middle, you've got like a humbucker, an HSS Strat. If you pull it down the way, it makes this a single coil, so you get like an SSS Strat. And if you put it in the forward position, it splits this down to a single coil and adds in the neck one. So it's, I think I decided it was a Coil Adder 9 sound. Basically the same as what I was doing with the other versions of the Coil Adder, but I was getting more sounds with them by putting them in a slightly different order. So this has got 9 sounds, and it's just a normal tone and a high pass filter, so I can actually suck away the bass and end up with just a treble. So my reason for wanting to keep it was just because it's so damn good. We're overheating already. But yes, I will get on to actually quite a few guitars to show off today. This is a Flying V, which it's previously been owned by a Randy Rhoads fan, so I'd imagine that must have been done in the 80s. It's can't quite see. It might be plywood. I think it is plywood. Doesn't weigh very much. Does say made in Japan on the neck plate. This is the one I was talking about in the video, but you've not seen the video because it's not out yet. Hey, Electric Caveman! Just looking at my new Flying V I'm just back from picking up. So this has got a Les Paul neck of some description on it. It could be a Hondo, I don't know. I would suggest that the headstock has been reshaped to make it look a bit more Gibson-y, just because it's a bit scuffed. So I'm just now looking at this. Also, it's missing the 21st fret, so I need to put a fret in it. But does it actually... It's playing of some description. All the bridges there. This is the bridge has been painted red at some point. It's quite a cool that on it. That might be able to help me find out what this actually is. That stop tailpiece isn't your usual type. Yeah, he says it's just a bit size. Says the neck's off something else. Hey Ruben, XXX Paps. Yeah, so what am I going to do with this? I'm going to make it play, basically. It's going to have to get painted. It's horrible. What it's going to get painted, I don't know. Maybe a Bucky one or a... I don't know. Maybe... I'll have a look. I'm trying to think. I don't know. This headstock I can't live with a Les Paul style headstock on a Flying V. Same as I can't handle a 6-a-side headstock on one either. It's got to be to your side. It's got to be triangular. So I'm hoping that if I am I going to be able to cut that and that maybe and make it into more of a Flying V shape. Assuming I can get the neck to work. It seems to be all right. Tush rod's over tightened, which could mean a multitude of things. Yeah, so this is guitar number 1. It's got rather cool plastic strap buttons on it. That'll be fun. Flying V's are always fun. If I can make the headstock work and then just Bucky paint it or Iron Brew paint it, laughing. I'll have to make an entire scratch plate, I think. This one is held on with the bridge. There's a bit missing. I might get away with just making this bit out of like the aluminium tread plate, maybe. Something like that. yeah, so new project. I saved it from a bin. Lovely guy. I gave him I gave the guy a Mad Malco t-shirt. He seemed rather pleased with that. Like more pleased than he probably should have been with a Mad Malco t-shirt, but there you go. I got this off him as well. This is a satellite Les Paul, which everyone of a certain age will remember. I remember them not being new. I think you're talking mid to late 70s through the 80s. You got satellite guitars, and they were basically just cheap copies of Les Pauls and stuff. Korean, I think. Looking by the shape of the Korean guitars from this vintage tend to have this shape of neck plate, which I think kind of works out. So no, I don't know what to do with this. Clean it up, make it work. A couple of humbuckers in it. It does have a sort of vintagey Les Paul look. I mean, it kind of looks like that one there, but it's not the same league. Hey Jeff, evening Malcolm. Was checking out Manny Charlton going through his guitar collection on YouTube. Here's one which looks dip, but was actually done using ink and shrink wrap. That sounds interesting. I think I saw Manny Charlton one time when I was in the West End working as a house mover, and I was in the West End, and this guy went past, and it had to be him. He just totally looked like him. Assuming he still lives in Glasgow, I don't know, but he looked like him at the right age. He still had the same haircut, apart from it's now grey, and he had the sunglasses and the moustache and stuff. So I think I've seen him. He wasn't in Nazareth when I saw Nazareth. I saw Nazareth, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. So they still had Dan McCafferty singing. He signed my denim jacket and was a bit grumpy. I think he was in a bad mood that night. And there was no bass player, and I don't know who the guitarist was. I'm not sure about the drummer either. But yeah, so, and also Manny famously uses a Washburn Falcon for quite a while. There's a video from Perhaps you only get 19 guitars, man. How you get what you want's a nice cheap Les Paul. Bucky Les Paul. Oh, I don't think I've done an Iron Brew Les Paul. Orange, blue pickups. Might be going there. I'm not going to get rid of the satellite because I always liked the font that Satellite's written in. It kind of reminds me of Battlestar Galactica, the original 70s ones. I think it used to say things like Colonial Viper in that exact font. That was actually what I asked for when Civic was making up my t-shirts. I was like, I want 70s TV 70s computer writing. And this is what she came up with, which is fine. But that was kind of my original idea, was to say Mad Malco guitars in that font. Yep. So, yep, another strat. The trick is I've got to do these. I've got to do them now rather than just let them sit there, because if they just sit there, they'll sit there forever. And then the pièce de résistance. This probably the oldest guitar I've ever owned. Unfortunately, it snapped. The scratch plate snapped further when the guy was showing it to me. But this is one I haven't actually looked up yet. Apparently, there'll be lots of stuff online. This is a Futurama. It says Futurama Foreign written here. These pickups are kind of built into the scratch plate. Oh, this one's missing. It used to have like light switches on here in the 50s. I think this is the one that if you look up the old picture of the Beatles when they're in Hamburg, there's a bit time when they went down to the docks when they're all like 17 or something like that, wearing like leather jackets and sort of Elvis quiffs, and George Harrison's playing his Futurama, which is, I think his is a slightly like, this is an earlier one, his, because this has got a Telecaster headstock. The one he's got has got a different type of headstock. But just looking at it, it's interesting. I wonder if that's the wrong way around. So it's even got a serial number, 367. So it probably is the 367th one ever made. It's the neck on it feels almost it's almost V profile, very late 50s. This was back in the day when this came out. You couldn't get vendors in the UK, some trade embargo thing. That was why Cliff Richard, when he bought Hank Marvin's one, it cost $2,500, like in 60s money. They had to import it because you couldn't buy American goods here. So this is what this was the closest thing you could get to a Stratocaster. Apparently, quite old. The bridge is nuts. It looks like it's been made like with someone with a mill or a lathe or something. I don't know if there's enough there to make it work. I don't know what these springs do. I've got research to do on this particular one to see what it is I can end up doing with it. But obviously, I'm going to have to try and keep some of the scratch plate. Ideally, I'd love to be able to fit pickups behind. Assuming if this pickup works, put it in the neck. If not, maybe fit pickups behind and keep this sort of plasticky moulding bit, and then maybe make some bit of scratch plate here to kind of try and be a bit sympathetic with it, rather than doing something silly. I mean, it's kind of like what I was doing with the guy's Jedson Telecaster. I do have some active pickups from an Epiphone kicking about, and it's like it's just absolute sacrilege putting active pickups in this. So I think vintagey type single coils. This soap dish bit, I've no idea. I had to put something in there, some sort of switch. Yeah, it's also, I'll probably strip it down as well. It's bad when you see these things and it's got like flathead screws bolting the neck on because it's that old. And it's actually got all 5 tuners. Oh, 6. That one turns. Yeah, I might get away with just replacing one of the wee buttons on the end. I don't know how I would make them that color. Get a white plastic one and then sit it in a cup of coffee for 2 weeks, something like that, maybe, to get it down that color. Strings, and then I've got to try and make this bridge work, but really that's going to involve going in and looking up stuff to find it. I'm not really sure exactly what to do. The chances of getting original parts for something like this will be nothing. I don't know if they're ever really going to be that valuable, but I think if I was looking for, I need to get a scratch plate, I'd imagine a scratch plate probably costs more than most of these guitars do, if you get one in unique position. It was fun. Hey Buster, how's it going? I dig these oddity ups from YouTube. That's a couple of things I've had where folk have just like, they've got these guitars. The thing is, it's like selling something like this, by giving it to me, it will live. Whereas you don't know if you're selling it to some random person. I think it gets to the point where, you could just, a lot of the guitars I get, basically, I should just part them out. I should just take off the neck, sell the body, sell the bridge, sell the pickups individually and get more money. But I don't like killing a good guitar. So I'll always try and make it work and then sell it for less than the combined sale of the parts, unfortunately. But that's the way it works. It does have a bit of a Dano to it. I don't really know what you would call it. Definitely interesting. And if it's going to be 50s, I can't remember what year it was. The guy said it was. When were the Beatles in Hamburg? Was that like 1960 or something? So maybe George Harrison bought a brand new one in 1960. I think maybe late 50s. And it's very, very old feeling. But yeah, so I think, to be honest, I think it's a keeper just because I can go look a George Harrison guitar. Assuming I'm going to make the bridge work somehow, whether it's just a stop tail, whether I actually manage to get the tremolo system working again is something else. It's also got like a hatch on the back, and in the back it's got screws for adjusting the tension of the springs. So I really don't know. I've not had it out to actually see what it's actually consisting of. It seems to, I don't know. It does look like it's just been made by someone hammering pieces of metal together. Yeah, anyway, so that's that. Oh, the heat's hitting me as well already. I'm closing my windows just so people in the street can't hear me quite as much, rather than I'm just standing there talking to myself and drinking in the window. Nobody there. Hey J-Bob, I was just talking about you, and I hope I gave you the right t-shirt. I thought I had a large, it was only X. It was an extra large I had in the car, and then I picked up another extra large. So if it doesn't fit, I'll give you another one. 6061, you see, and the strings go in through the back of the springs. Oh, right, I see it. Geesh. Then go in there. I'll make it work. I'll make it work somehow. But it's going to be great fun. And as I say, probably more of a keeper. The last guitar I had that was a bit, it actually reminds me very much of that, was a Watkins Rapier. I bought 3 guitars from, was it a charity shop on the south side in Pollokshaws? And they gave me 4 guitars. I think I seem to remember it being a white Axel Les Paul, a Falcon Stratocaster. I can't remember what the other guitar was, and she went, "Oh, do you want this one as well?" And it was a Watkins Rapier, super early Watkins Rapier, in worse condition than that. It had the bridge, it had the neck, that was it, and it had all been stripped down. But it had a ridiculous serial number on it as well. It was like 150 or something like that. And I was always going to sort of put it back together again. Another George Harrison one, to be honest. And eventually I just gave up and I sold it. I think I got about 150 quid for it or something like that, you know, to somebody who's... I didn't want it to just sit there, which is what it was going to end up doing. Warm in Belfast too, well, you're not that far away, but gin and tonics is maybe an idea. Not as good as Bucky though. I've actually got that Glava, which I keep forgetting about. Maybe have a wee drink of that. I don't know if I really want to be mixing that with Bucky though. I'll wait till I'm halfway through my Bucky or about Stephen. Hey, Burks. Heatwave in Germany. Yeah, I think it's kind of hard to explain. I mean, we've been in Europe. Well, we're still in Europe, not in the European Union, no, but we're still, you can't chuck us out of actual Europe. The area, we're just not far apart at all, like Germany and all these places. It's like when I was in China, just the distances between the cities in China is insane. I wanted to go to a guitar factory. There weren't any in Shenzhen where I was, and I found they're all in some city I'd never heard of, quite far away. And there was one in a city that wasn't that far away. Like on the map, here's China, Shenzhen's here. It was sort of here, pretty close. Let's go there. And stuff. It was up here. Yeah, we'll get a plane. It's up here, all money. Can we not go on the train or something like that? And it was something like 38 hours on the train to get from here to here. And you know, this is China. And it's just like, oh. So I really think you're probably talking about Germany, whatever it is, you're probably closer than that guitar factory was to Shenzhen, and it was in the same country. Europe's not a big place. You notice that when you're getting flights to Amsterdam and stuff, and it's like basically the plane from Amsterdam to Glasgow goes up for about 15 minutes, and then it goes down, and then you've landed. So it's basically and it's like the flights I've been getting, you get like a meal, so you get like a sandwich, and it's like the plane's still on the runway, and folk are getting given their sandwiches, and then it's like the poor staff have to push the trolley up a 45-degree angle for the first half, and then it gets to the top, and then basically by the time it gets to the end, the last person gets their sandwich and then gets off the plane. It's quite funny. Heat wave in Fife. Fife's always warmer than it is here. The thing that's getting me is the fact I've got to have that window closed. I'm actually quite lucky in my rock room here because the sun south is that way, basically. So first thing in the morning, the sun shines in. That's fine. But as it gets later on during the day, you know, any time after sort of 10 or 11 o'clock at night, the sun is over there and then it's coming in the back of the house. So it's getting pure cooked. Whereas here, generally not too bad. If you open the window, it's pretty warm. It's pretty cooling. There's a breeze. I was trying to explain that to Sivit the other day. She was talking, but you don't have air conditioning. What do you do if you want to make it colder? And it's like, you open the window. Or as we call it, windies in Scotland. That's because when you open it, it gets windy. Yeah, and it was like, but it's hotter outside, and it's like, not in Scotland, it's not. It's virtually never hotter outside. Maybe for a couple of hours a year, there might be a time when it's actually hotter outside than it is in your house, but basically not. Yeah, China could literally cover all of Europe and some of the Atlantic. I mean, I was looking at the flight. One of the places I stop at sometimes coming back from Shenzhen is Chengdu, which is sort of halfway up, and it's like a 4-hour flight or something, and you're still just an internal China flight. And I think from 4 hours from Scotland, you must be in I think you're talking about being in Africa or Russia or halfway to New York sort of thing. It's like just China's big. It's hard to really comprehend how big it is. I mean, when I was there one time, I was in Shenzhen, it was Chinese New Year, and Civit's dad said that 14 million people leave Shenzhen for Chinese New Year. And there's only 5 million people in Scotland. So this is one city that 3 times the population of Scotland leaves for a couple of weeks to go home. It just made it, driving about, it was kind of a bit like a ghost town. Quite enjoyed it. Good fun. Yeah, it's about Holland. Fair getting in all over the world type thing. What I really need to do is get myself a world map. I could have a world map and then put drawn pins in from where all you lot are from. It's like, because I mean, it's like, wow, broadcasting to the whole world. I've been to Holland a few times. That's the only place I've ever been that's not in Britain until I went to China. I went to Holland first. Now, when I come back to Holland, I've not been to China for a couple of years now, but now when I come back, by the time I get to Holland, it's just like I'm home. It just feels like I'm back home. It's fine. It's like a 45-minute flight or something. And if you miss it, it's like, I'll get one later. It doesn't really matter. Who has met you, Holland? Don't know what that. I don't get that one. I went to Holland to see John Fogerty the first time I was playing. I was wearing the t-shirt before I put on the. It doesn't have dates on it. It doesn't. My John Fogerty t-shirt. I bought this in Holland, and I remember when I bought it, I put it on at the concert and walked it home, and then when I took it off, see this writing on the back. It must have not been dried properly because basically I managed to take the t-shirt off with this writing still attached to my back, and I got my pal to sort of peel off in sections. I managed to take the whole t-shirt off while leaving the inside back stuck to my back. Yeah, so that's the first time I went to Amsterdam. Never been to anywhere else in Holland. I think it blew my mind in Amsterdam. I know it's like going to the coffee shops and all that's great, but the thing that blew my mind was looking at like the way lampposts are attached to buildings and the way the houses are all dead thin and dead tall and stuff like that. Yeah. Culturally amazing. Really enjoyed that stuff. Lovely place, and everyone seems dead nice as well. And the first time I went, it was like, getting into the shop and kind of going, hello, could I have a bottle of Coca-Cola, please? And the person behind the counter would go, yes, you can have a bottle of Coca-Cola. What's your first language? And I said, like, English. And it's like, why are you talking really slowly then? Oh. Realised basically everyone there speaks English anyway. It's quite funny. Hey, Mr. White, what's mang? It's Bucky time. Indeed it is. It's going down remarkably well because I'm quite hot just now. So it's this is the sort I can sort of feel the slight danger which happens sometimes when you drink Bucky outside, as in you're looking forward to going out to pals, going to a barbecue, you're 10 minutes in or half an hour in, you've nearly finished your Bucky, and then suddenly you just go, oh, maybe calm down a little bit. I think Stephen McDonald and Paps may know each other. We're getting a wee bit of banter going on. And they're using Scots language, which I generally use, but try not to since I started doing by trying to speak clearly so people know what I'm talking about a little bit, but not too much. Ho gat heat het. See, that's great. I don't know what that is. I don't know what Prima Deluxe is either. I'm sure it's all great fun though. So who's been doing what? What else have I done? Oh yeah, I've been looking at the Hello Kitty guitar. Now, it's not playing at the right moment, but it's now got a full-size headstock on it again. So these have normally got a maple fingerboard. I've now put the proper neck on it because the one that was on it had been misshaped really badly. This is the original neck, but all I could really do was try and hack it to look a bit like a Telecaster, which isn't right for a Hello Kitty guitar. But basically it's a Oh, it doesn't have a date on it. I think it's about the same time. This is a Indonesian Court 04. This one, the serial number has been taken off, but it's Indonesian Court. It's about that time, so it's the same neck. It fitted on beautifully. Apart from I had shims in the back of it, in the back of that neck, and now they're on this. The strings are all sitting on the fingerboards, so I need to unshim it, turn it back on again, and then try and punt this. I stuck it on eBay for 600 quid, just in case some total lunatic wanted it, because I mean, these guitars do go for quite a bit, but normally the eyeballs don't light up. It's got a distortion circuit in it, but yeah, so that's the original one, says so in the back. So I need to do something with that. I'll maybe put it up for, they normally go for about 300, 350, so I'm thinking about just basically asking that, because somebody who's going to buy it with, and it's already got like a net whistle pickup in it, and it's got a distortion pedal in it, and it's got, as I said, light up eyeballs, which has got to count for something. My pal suggested, but I shouldn't be trying to sell it on a guitar site. I should be trying to sell it on like a Hello Kitty site. I remember in China when I was in the mall, there was a Hello Kitty shop, and the shop was huge, and it just basically sold everything you could possibly imagine you could possibly put Hello Kitty on, like plates and shelves and guitars and wheels and pumps and fire extinguishers and all the stuff. So I basically nabbed the neck off this Strat. This Strat is getting a Showmaster neck, which is just now in the garage because I oiled the fingerboard. I could probably go and get it, but I need to do a little bit of work to make it fit, because this is like a rounded profile, where the Showmaster's got more of a Telecaster flat profile. It's going to fit. It just needs a little bit of a rounding on the back, and basically that will give me a tobacco sunburst Strat with a reverse headstock. The Showmaster neck is thin, kind of like a sort of shreddy Ibanez type neck, but still with a Fender headstock. So that'd be quite interesting with this. I'm also looking at, because it's got the backwards headstock, I've got a left-handed scratch plate, which I think is only one ply. So what I'm thinking is I can flip it upside down, carve the sides the other way around, and that would give me this pickup instead of going this way, because you combine that with a left-handed neck and you are Hendrix. Because you could argue that the upside down headstock, the string tension is different, because instead of having, you know, there's longer string for the E string and then shorter. What it does, I don't know, but it does reverse it. And also having this pickup like that, mainly out of curiosity to see if it makes any difference. I don't know whether it does. I mean, I can see on an oscilloscope how it could, because obviously the situation said just now, the trebly strings will be treblier because they're closer to the bridge, and the bassy strings will be bassier because they're further away from the bridge, whereas if I flip that round, it might make it a bit more even. But I've had the same discussion with P-bass pickups. I mean, this is a P-bass pickup under a cover. It's the same principle. So this is like basically just a P-bass pickup under this cover, but it's got the bridge strings are closer to the neck. So these will be bassier than they would normally be, and these will be trebler than normally. A P-bass is normally the other way around. We've actually got a Washburn Force 8, which has got like a P-bass pickup, but it's the other way around. I think I've seen BC Rich do it as well. I can't say I'm noticing it make any difference, really. Maybe notice it if it was a bit more, I don't know, a bit more obvious, but it's not that obvious, so it doesn't make a huge difference. So I think flipping it round is more of an idea, the principle, more for looks than really for any sort of actual surface. That only works if it's if I could just flip the scratch plate over. It might not be as simple as that. I remember looking at it thinking, because it was only one ply, all I would really need to do is take the top, which is obviously cut like that, and then cut it like that, which might make it smaller, which might make it not fit. Worth a look anyway. Other than that, what am I going to do with a left-handed scratch plate? I got it from a Strat I did up from a guy in Stirling who was over the moon with it. Like a pure crazy idea. He had so got your Strat, and I think it was an expensive Strat, but it was left-handed. So what I did was I got a blank scratch plate and put it on it. Put the pickups in as usual and didn't put any of these knobs in. And the knobs instead, I put in roller knobs like what you get on a Jaguar or something like that. But obviously, the guitar would be upside down. This is a right-handed one, but you know, it would be this way around. So these knobs, none of these were in. And I had like a roller volume control here and a roller tone control here, and I put the output jack on the back somewhere. The guy was absolutely over the moon, and it worked really well. But that's where I've got the original. I don't think it was an American Strat. I think it was a Mexican Strat. So I've got a Mexican Strat scratch plate I might be able to put on. Any experience with the old K Strat copies? K are funny ones. I think they did do good guitars, but like a lot of these companies, it's like, because they were trying to produce the cheapest guitars at the same time, I don't think very many people bought the more expensive ones. So the more expensive ones, they maybe try for a couple of years, because you get ones that are like, they look very much like the Washburn Falcons. Whether they are actually through neck or just look a bit like through neck, that kind of thing, and they've got like the brass and all that stuff on you. You see them occasionally with K, and they're obviously nothing to do with the Strat copies and the Les Paul copies. So really, it's kind of like K is like a branding thing. So they didn't make guitars. Not very many people did make guitars, but you know, it's like they just bought them in. So there's a huge variance in it. I have seen some terrible K guitars, but that was the ones, you know, the cheapest Spanish acoustic you can buy in Argos type thing. At one point, it was K that made them. So, but then again, like a nylon string guitar, how good is it ever going to be, really? Don't know. ESP bass pickups are flipped as well. Don't think it does any difference. I don't think it does. Maybe. I mean, I've always said this as well. It's maybe different if you play. I mean, this does happen to people. They've got their bass. I'm thinking just now of the guy Herbie Flowers, who's a famous session bass player who I think is still alive. He had like the first year of the jazz bass, and basically that's the same bass he's used for thousands of records. He's like an in-session guy. He just used that one bass. So maybe if you're playing the same bass for 50 years, you would notice a difference. But I mean, I don't play the same bass twice, 2 days in a row, really. So it's like I'm just used to playing. It's like, oh, using a long scale this week, and it's like, oh, it was last time I was playing the bass, it was just the short scale EBO. It's got different pickups, and same thing happens with guitars. I'm just better at playing all types of guitars now, whereas I can totally see that, say, when I used to be in this situation, I had my SG, and I played that all the time, and then I got a shot of a Telecaster. It's like, what's going on here? A Strat was even, this is just rubbish, what's going on? Whereas now I'm just kind of used to playing all of them. But ESP bass pickups are backwards as well. Fair enough, I didn't know that. Have I seen that ESP? Is it an LTD or an ESP? I think it may be an LTD, in which case I have seen it. I have an Ibanez Musician from 78. You ever seen one of those? Do you know much about them? I know that, Musician. I think my pal Ivor's got one. It's kind of like a precursor to the Blazer and then later the Roadster series. So it's right in the coffee table era, when basically all guitars looked like a really expensive coffee table. So it'll be brown, I'd imagine, but like fantastic wood. Kind of Strat, sort of shaped, but with but somewhere between a Strat and a Les Paul, basically kind of like your PRS-y things. Yes, I'm aware of them. No, I've not got one because they're normally very expensive. You don't really see them kicking about for 100, 200 quid, which is where I kind of look for guitars most of the time. They're normally much more than that. I bet you it weighs an absolute ton, and I've got it a wee bit mixed up with the Artist, which I'm not sure how different an artist and a musician are. I think they're quite similar. The Artist is the one that the Washburn guy copied with the wings, but he made it symmetrical. He copied a lot of things from the Artists, and that's where the pickups came from. He went to Maxon and said, I want the pickups, the ones that are in the Artist. And went, oh, that's Super 70s. Yep, so that's what's in the Washburns. Ever tried old Soviet guitars? I see a few come up again. They look terrible. I did a video for one not long ago. My pal Alan bought a Soviet guitar, and it's kind of not. It's kind of like that Futurama, really. It had some crazy things, but it wasn't that mental. It was sort of going along the lines of a Jazzmaster or a Jaguar sort of thing. Like, to me, it sort of said, "Oh, surf music," that kind of idea, but definitely interesting. Definitely had some sounds, and I think it's one of those things. If you're like a Jack White or a C6 Steve, like that kind of quirky thing you're into, amazing. The sort of thing I would get if they were cheap, but they're virtually never going to be cheap. It's the sort of guitar that probably costs £100 or the equivalent of new. And then so now, if I saw one for £50 or £100, I would totally buy it. It'd be awesome, but you don't get them for that price. To get one that works, you're up at £200-300. It's like, all right. And then the idea kind of goes away. I feel very much that happened with Dan Electros. I'm sure I would like Dan Electros because the whole idea of it being like hardboard with a cardboard center with duct tape around it. This is how cheap can we make a guitar that you can play. For the original ones, I mean, I think they were about a tenth of the price of a Telecaster or something like that, but you could still play it. I really like that idea. But when they reissued them, and now when I see them, it's like £400, and it's like, for £400 you can get a good guitar. It doesn't need to be this quirky, silly thing. So yes, I would love a Dan Electro. Dan Electro should be under £100. If they're under £100, I'm sure I'd be a fan, and I would like them, but they're not because they're cool. So they're £300-400, and for that you can get a good guitar, I think, anyway. Ibanez neck through, walnut sides. Yeah. Weigh a ton. I bet you it sounds amazing. It'll have Super 70 pickups in it, most likely, or something like that. 78, they were really... I'm always right into the Japanese stuff. So the sort of 70s, they were doing copies. At the start of the 70s, they were doing copies, and then they started doing copies that were pretty damn close to being as good as the ones they were copying. And they weren't copying, like in 1975, they weren't copying the 1975 Les Paul. Why would you want that? It's plywood, weighs a ton and is crap. They were copying the 1958 Les Paul. And they were doing the same with Strats as well. So you were actually getting guitars, like if you were going to buy a Strat in 1980 or 1979, the closest you could get to an original Strat was to buy an Aria Pro or a Matsumoku built one, which was closer to a pre-CBS Strat than what you could get from Fender at the time, and half the price. And then they decided they were going to, let's not make copies anymore, let's make original designs. And it's like Ibanez, your musician, your artist. That's when your Aria Pro PE series came out. Then you get your Washburn wings, where they're coming out with these new own designs, which were just meant to be amazing. And there's actually a guitar book I've got called, I think it's the Guitar Buyer's Guide from 1982 or something like that. And it's got lots of West tones and all that in it. And one of the things they show you is, I believe it's a Maya Telecaster copy. And it says, this seems very old-fashioned these days. The Japanese have long since realized that the way to get the most money and to get the best longest time out of your guitar is to build original designs, not just copying Fender ones from 30 years ago. And it's like how wrong they were with that idea, because look at the ones like your Grecos and your Burnies and Orville's and stuff like that did just continue making, instead of making the Washburn wings, the Aria PE, the Ibanez musicians, they just made Les Paul copies. Now they're worth £2,000, whereas none of the other ones, the copies aren't worth as much, because people don't want a better guitar. They don't want the best playing, best sounding, and best built guitar. They want one that looks like a Les Paul, or one that looks like a Stratocaster. It doesn't have to be good. Yeah. Where's the black Hello Kitty came from? I got it from Leicester. I spotted it. My pal Wayne lives down there, and somebody comes into his shop every now and again, has a big wall of guitars, and he was going to sell off. He was going to keep, I think he was going to keep 4 or something, and he had maybe 20. And I spotted the Hello Kitty on the wall, and I was like, that one with a dual-sonic scratch plate on it, that's different. And it was a Hello Kitty. Yeah. He also had another guitar, one I wanted that Wayne bought, which was really good. It's a Crafter, which is like a French company. But this thing was like, how would you describe it? It's a sort of jazz arch top sort of thing, but quite small bodied, P90 in the neck, and an acoustic. And it had the F holes in it, kind of looked vaguely Klingonish. And I just thought that looked like a fantastic guitar. Wayne bought it though. So I'll maybe get a shot of it later. You got it at a pawn shop in Canada 20 years ago for the Ibanez Musician. You did see it. Probably dirt cheap for what it is, but I'd imagine probably more expensive than if you went to the guitar shop around the corner for a basic square Strat type thing, I would imagine, because I don't know, you do see people occasionally buying these Ibanez for picking them up for peanuts. I mean, I paid nothing for my my Blazer, 1981 Blazer. Did need a bit of work to get it working again, but basically all of it was there. I had to paint it and clean it, put it back together again. But awesome. So I mean, I do have Ibanez. Ibanez aren't actually a company that don't make guitars, or then they didn't make guitars. I think now I think they might own factories now. Nah. No, I think they've got their own design team, but they don't. They employ Cort to build X range in Indonesia, and somebody else to build the Geo range in China, and somebody else to build the Prestige range in Japan. I don't think they actually own any factories. Really, the only thing people I think that do are, well, obviously Gibson and Fender when they're made in America, and Yamaha, who I think own all their own factories, or at one time owned all their own factories. So if you get a Yamaha, it's made in a Yamaha factory. One of the reasons why the quality control on Yamahas is pure ridiculous. And I've never really come across a Yamaha anything that wasn't really good. And I'm even talking about wee stupid keyboards, the £20 entry keyboards. Even then you go, well, yes, it is a £20 entry keyboard, but it's the best one. Sort of funny. Bit like Fender Japan. Yeah, Fender Japan is Fuji Gen, or it was at the start. So they kind of started off. The Fender got a bad shock with the Fuji Gen Strats, because they were basically, as I said earlier on, they were producing Strats based on that were closer to the desirable 50s spec or early 60s pre-CBS Fenders was what was coming out of Japan. And then if you went to Fender, you were getting a 70s one, so it weighed 3/4 of a ton, had a 3-bolt neck, Bakelite pickups, fat, all the economies had come in, whereas they were making, rather than copying modern guitars, they were copying the old ones. And then when they came out, the first Fender Japan were Squire series, which had JV for Japanese vintage on the serial number, and they were basically a copy of a 1958 Strat and a copy of a 1962 Strat, or the first two that came out, and they ran for like a year, Japan only. And then they swapped the headstock about, so it no longer said Fender Squire, it said Squire by Fender. And then they sneaked into Europe a little bit. And this is about 1982, 1983. And then folk just went mad for them because they were better than the American Fenders you could buy at the time. They had the American pickups and stuff in them, but they were better built guitars and they were for 1/4 of the price. So then they did that for a year, and then they brought out my Squire Bullet, and then they started making Squires cheaper. So it wasn't a case of, it used to be, oh, we're Fender, we need to have really good quality stuff. I want you to build a Strat as good as you can. So Fuji Gen went, right, we're Japanese, let's go. Here you go. And then Fender went, oh shit, this is better than what we're doing. Right, can you make it cheaper? And then that's when, and then like Fender have kind of been fighting with that ever since, really trying to make it. You don't want it to be rubbish. So it says Fender, so it's got to play, but they don't want it to be too good, because if it's too good, it rivals their, at the time, American ones, and it's like, you don't know how it's going to work. Gibson owns the Epiphone factory in China. Yes, Gibson did buy the Epiphone factory in China between 5 and 10 years ago. Yes, but that's, I think although they own the company and the factory, I don't think that factory only makes Epiphones. That Rally, I also had a guitar called a Canvas. I've still got one in China for me, which I think was in there as well. So I think the Epiphone factory makes 10,000 Epiphones a month or whatever, or they make 10,000 guitars a month. That's a random number, right? And maybe Epiphone only needs 8,000 for this month, so they don't just sit empty. They build other brands, smaller brands of guitar, using the same tools and very similar designs and stuff. Hence, that's what that Rally is, I think. And I think that's what that Canvas guitar was as well, where it's sort of like, well, the factory's on downtime, but they do own a factory. Whether it's the only Chinese Epiphone factory, nah. They do own a factory, though. I've seen a video of it. Definitely. A mine of information. Yeah, it might not be 100% accurate. There's an awful lot of hearsay. I suppose the difference being I'm just saying this is what I think, what I've accumulated from reading hundreds of maybe possibly wrong articles on internet in different places. Just because an internet site, even if it looks pretty official, says something, doesn't make it 100% fact. Anything can be changed as more information comes to light. It's the old having arguments. It happens every week. I try not to take the bait, but people selling Washburn guitars made in Matsumoku. Washburn never made any guitars in Matsumoku, but the big Washburn Wings site hasn't been updated in 20 years, and it says, in one of the lines, it says, the Raven and Scavenger are made by somebody else. We don't know who, possibly Matsumoku. And from that line, everyone's got rock solid proof, and they keep sending me links and stuff, and it's like everything comes from that one sentence in the Wings thing where it says, not made by Yamaki, made by somebody else, possibly Matsumoku, and that's where the whole thing comes from, and it just keeps getting Chinese whispered out. But we've actually talked to the guy who designed Yamaki's and owned the factory, and Washburn were never made by Matsumoku. So we know that. Even then, you are talking about a guy who must now be, or if you're talking about 1980, that's 40 years ago. So the guy's probably must be at least in his 60s. How well does he remember things from 40 years ago? I don't know. I still think there's got to be a book coming out. Someone should be looking up a book about Japanese guitar factories in the late 70s and early 80s, because somebody must know. Most of the people there must still be alive. You know, assuming if you're talking 1980 and you're 20, now you're 60. Yeah. He's just still alive and able to make money at a book. So there should be a book maybe telling you all this stuff. I mean, I've just seen little snippets. There's an amazing, is it Ibanez? I think it's Ibanez. They've got a brochure and it shows you a picture of the factory. And this must be, I'm sure it's a Roadster the guy in the picture's holding. So we're talking early 80s. And it just looks, it's like, imagine a massive warehouse, but everyone's got their own wee room, kind of maybe about the size of this, maybe about 2 meters square. And it's like just with all the, rulers and chisels and stuff all set up, like hundreds of these wee units. And basically these folk are go and get a guitar from the assembly line, which would be like the body coming out the CNC routing machine and the neck. And then they would basically just build the guitar by hand, built by one person, apart from the actual, the actual cutting out of the body and the neck, but everything else was pretty much done by one person in a wee unit thing, a wee wooden unit, and it was just hundreds of these things. So I mean, that's why, and I think all the guitar factories from that era in Japan would have been like that. So the reason that they are, these things are so much better than what you get is now, because it was built by one person, and it's like one person who'd built hundreds of guitars, so knew exactly, the neck's not quite lining up, and knew exactly how to sort it, and because wood, every bit of wood's slightly different. So if you just stick slabs of wood into a computer and get to spit it out at the end, some of them are going to, the grain's going to have changed and shrank and all these things, where you've actually got a person doing it. You end up with what's basically now your Fender custom shop. I mean, the Fender custom shop, they don't start off with a chunk of wood and carve it into a strap body. You know what I mean? They go and get a strap body from the CNC machine. That's kind of the way to go. Next project, write a book. Well, I don't know enough about it. I'm not forceful enough. I don't like getting into arguments. Whenever I know somebody, I don't think he'll mention on here, one of my pals, and he's forever getting into fights online just by being too abrupt. Like whenever someone says, you know, it's like, oh, I've got an Ibanez Blazer from 1986. There's two ways you can answer that. Or you can say nothing, or you can go in and go, you're a fucking idiot. They didn't make Blazers in 86. You must be pure thick. It must be an 82. You could say that, or you could say, I'm not sure, but I don't think they made Blazers in 86. Was it maybe a Roadster? Is what I would say. Whereas my pal does the opposite, just goes, bah! And as soon as you do that, people start getting their back up, then you start having fights, and you start getting banned from pages. So don't do that. Lots of guitar. I know. Matsumoku's it's a buzzword. There's also another one. Matsumoto is an area of Japan, kind of like Nagoya. Matsumoto is a group of factories under a sort of umbrella corporation. Matsumoku are one of the things that was under that. I don't know how long that lasted for. I think it was gone by the time it got to the late 70s. So the Matsumoto and Matsumoku, because Matsumoku is a factory, that's the one that made Singer sewing machines and furniture and guitars, namely Aria, most Arias from that era, from up until the mid-80s when they started going to Korea and other places, most Arias, all West Tones, because West Tone were actually Matsumoku's home brand. They actually had a research and development part in the factory making West Tones. That's why West Tones have all got the mad switching systems and crazy design features that are now a modern thing on a Gibson. It's like, yeah, that was on a West Tone had that in 1981. What else was I going to say? What other companies? I don't know. If you look at it, there's so many different brands depending on whereabouts in the world you are. I'm talking about the Flying V. I've got an Arbiter Flying V. We also had Avon Arbiter, Dallas Arbiter made Fuzz Faces shop in Denmark Street in London. Rose Morris, Avon Rose Morris was a shop on Denmark Street in London, imported these things. Grant Guitars was a shop in Glasgow, imported these things. So I mean, some of these are Matsumoku and stuff. There's lots of companies like that. Electra is a big one in America. If you're over there, they basically were an American company who just ordered guitars from Matsumoku at one point for a while, but it's actually an American company. I don't think I've got an upturned cross hanging in the corner. If I do, it's not. I'm not a Satan worshipper. My pal keeps going about that. But in order to be a Satan worshipper, you've got to believe in Satan. So I assume you're talking about my Claymore guitar, which is it used to be a Yamaha Pacifica. And it's meant to look, if you've not seen Jesse Ray, look up a video called Over the Sea. He's a Scottish funk guy. He played with a lot of members of Parliament and Funkadelic, who I didn't know at the time, but now I kind of get the funk a little bit. I played bass with him, me and my pals. Found him, thought his videos are the most amazing thing ever. He's on Facebook. Let's cover one of his songs, do a video drunk, and send it to him and see if he comments. And he did. And then we did the same again for the next 3 weeks. And I think after about the third one, I just went, right, lads, when's the gig? So we became his band for about 10 gigs, for a couple of months. And I made this for one of the videos. It's basically a Yamaha Pacifica neck, a bit of kitchen worktop. I think it might actually be the same exact piece of kitchen worktop I cut this out of. And it took an hour from start. And then when we did the actual video with it, it was still sticky, so you had to play it without touching anything. It's got a Warman Dominator pickup in it, which is almost identical to what's in my Gibson SG, and a single volume control. There's the output. And it was done for a joke, for a video, just using some crap I had lying about. And Peg, the guitarist, went, I'll just play that at gigs. So he just played this at gigs. And I built a 6-string bass, which kind of looked the same as well, to play at gigs. This isn't actually my guitar. I gave it to Peg years ago, but I borrowed it back off him about 4 years ago because I was going to see Wilco Johnson. Wilco Johnson played Sir Ilan Payne in Game of Thrones and is the guy who cut off Sean Bean's head at the end of the first season. So I've got a picture of Wilco Johnson cutting my head off with this guitar-shaped guitar, this sword-shaped guitar. Kind of looks a wee bit more like Thundercats rather than a Claymore, but it's a novelty thing. Kind of wasn't really expecting it to work. It was meant. I just basically threw it together for an hour because we were going to do a video, and I thought, oh, we can mine to the video using a sword-shaped guitar, and Peg was like, that's pretty fine. That's all right. That's a Claymore. It's not an axe. Yes. I could never do it again. It's like one of these things that you just bring up, and it's like, all right, see what happens. Actually, the bass I gave it to Jesse, so I need to get. I'm still need to get Jesse to send me a photo of himself playing the 6-string bass, so I can make a poster. It's like something like Mad Malcolm Guitars, the funkiest bass ever, or something. He's actually, if anyone's ever seen it, he keeps going on about his P bass. I've seen it. I've got a picture disc of him standing with the P bass on his back. He had a P bass, right? One with that sort of scratch plate, a 51 P bass. So it had like the big scratch plate. It was blonde. The single pickup on it. The serial number was 5. He got given it when he played with Parliament and Funkadelic, and someone stole it. So if you ever see a P bass with a serial number 5, it was stolen off Jesse Ray in the 80s. I think at the time it was probably worth quite a lot of money, but I can't think about how much P bass serial number 5 is worth now. That must be, is it £100,000 serial number 5? You know what I mean? Don't know, something stupid anyway. Maybe they would sell as well. It's not easy to build though. It's a pure nightmare. Using kitchen worktop material is pure rock solid. You can drive over it in a car and it doesn't split. I mean, that'll still be alive long after any other guitar is, because it's like impregnated with glue or something to make it waterproof. So it makes it an absolute bitch to cut up. So it's so hard. But I could make sword guitars, I suppose. Yeah. Any thoughts on decent non-Fender tellies? New. David, it's the same Hello Kitty. I just put a new neck on it. Decent non-Fender tellies. I did one which I thought I would really like. It was a G&L a couple of weeks ago. I didn't really like it. It wasn't very good. It wasn't as good, which it surprises me greatly. It wasn't as good as the Butterscotch Squire Classic Vibe one I had last week. It wasn't as good a guitar. It looked really amazing. You think, oh, G&L, that'll just be like, I don't know. They're kind of, I don't know. Fender telly, what kind of telly would I buy? If you're talking about a new one, I don't know. I mean, to be honest, that Squire one was really good. I'm trying to think, what tellies do I actually have? I've got the Washburn Tour 24. That's not really a telly though. It's telly shaped, but it's got humbuckers and a Floyd Rose, and it weighs 3/4 of a ton. It doesn't sound like a telly in any way. So you can argue it is a telly. I've got my Schecter telly, but that's kind of a Schecter from the late 70s, early 80s is basically better than a Fender. It's as good as the your pre-CBS Fender. That's what they made it look like. They copied that rather than copying, same as what the Japanese did. They didn't copy the current model. They didn't copy the 1975 Telecaster. No. They copied the 1965 Telecaster. Kind of like that. Chipson's on eBay today, and they're selling AK-47s. I have seen the gun-shaped guitars. Yes, my pal Dal's actually got one shaped like a fish, which I always quite fancied. Is it a Marlin? The tail is kind of like split in two, kind of like that, and then one bit's got the tuners on it. I quite fancy that. I don't think it's a particularly good guitar though. How does worktop rate as Tonewood? Sounds amazing. That I have to say that. See this partly. See, there's worktop, and there's mahogany. Yeah, not much in it. But that, when you hold it up, before I put the body together, I had the body on its own. If you held on to the top and knocked it, it went bong, and it was C. It its resonant frequency of that piece of wood was C. What use that is, no idea. But obviously, it did make a note, partly because of the shape of it, and because I was holding on to one point of it. This is before it had necks or pickups in it, but it really was very a very resonant piece of wood. It's ash, so as we all know, ash is the best tone wood because that's what Fender's made of. Ash, swamp ash, that's the best. Nothing to do with the fact that Fenders were pine for the first year, and then they thought, well, we're having to import this pine from Canada. What is it that grows near here in the swamps? Ash. We'll use that. Now it's a tone wood, but at the time it was cheaper than pine. Yeah. Nothing better tone wood in the morning. Yeah. I don't know. I think I don't fall anywhere on the tone wood debate. Sometimes I've got a plastic tokai, fiberglass, hollow plastic. I've got that Yamaha, which is made of hardboard filled with balsa wood. Sounds great. Plywood sounds great. Kitchen worktop, joists. A well-built guitar made out of plywood sounds an awful lot better than a not very well-built guitar made out of the most expensive tone wood in the universe. Put it that way. Much more to do with how well it's built rather than what it's made of. You see an awful lot of people making kit guitars of such things, and they spent £300 on a piece of solid mahogany to make their Les Paul, and okay. And then they spent £500 on bare knuckle pickups, okay, and Tone Pros bridge and lock-in tuners and all that, and then they put it together and it plays like shite. You've got to put it together, whereas you could knock together a £50 guitar kit and it might play really well if you know what you're doing, to when to adjust what and where to adjust things. When that happened, I've got a double neck through there I got off David, and it plays really well. It's not got upgraded parts on it. That is the bog standard parts. It's just somebody who knows what they're doing has put it together. What a difference that makes. So yeah, kitchen worktop for tuning drop C. Possibly, yeah. I don't know how it works. I could maybe try tuning it to C. Don't know. I was talking about making another double neck the other day. It's just the amount of time it takes. I mean, I don't think you can really grasp how long it took me to sand that. See, to try and get kitchen worktop to be smooth around the edges. And I think it has been treated, but really, it's like, see, trying to get all the sort of grainy bits. All that had to be severely polished to make it look like that. A fantastic thing. I might sling it on just for. Yeah. Oh, it seems so natural playing this. What I need to do for the Cranking House band I'm in, I need to build the bass player a guitar. I'm going to build him a double neck Telecaster, I think. It's going to have a short scale bass neck and a normal steel guitar neck on it. And if he's got that, it means that I can play this, and then we can find some purpose of having two double neck guitars in the same band. Great fun. Played a Strat made of IKEA chipboard that sounded as good as any Fender. Could be. I've looked at my videos when I was in China. My girlfriend bought a Mockingbird, a Star Sun Mockingbird, and she bought it when I was asleep. I bought a guitar, but I didn't show you because I know you'd tell me not to. I was like, right, okay. And then it arrived a couple of days later, and it was like pure, oh God, really? So awful. It was a Mockingbird. You can also get it badged West Tone over here. It's like a Mockingbird, but it's got one of the pickups is like a black EMG looking one, and the other one's a sort of white zebra coil or something like that. You see it all the time with different brands on it. The guitar was MDF, and I was like, really? And he's like, oh, you'll be able to make it work. And I was like, yeah, but how much did you pay for it? And she paid something like £7, including postage. And that guitar, actually had a really, really good unplugged acoustic sound, considering it was actually MDF, and it was terrible, but it was fun. Any cheap left-handed Strat copy necks going, so I can do the Jimmy thing? No, I don't. The only one I've got is that the Squire Showmaster neck, which I kind of bought for that neck. It's actually from my pal Dal, who about a year ago wanted, or maybe more than that, maybe 2 years ago, wanted me to build a Strat the same as his Squire, apart from with a reverse headstock, and this is just like the tobacco burst one. So I eventually got one. I had the Showmaster. I told him about it when I got it last week, and he's skint. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to build the guitar anyway and put it up for sale, and he can buy it if he wants. I'll probably put a Coil Adder in it. Really, just to be a Squire Strat. I'm quite pleased I got the neck though for the Hello Kitty. So now the Hello Kitty's got a proper looking neck rather than the sort of Telecaster-y looking thing I did. You don't get left-handed guitars particularly cheap very often. Unfortunately, they're not easy to get. Alex, they probably do use wood grain filler. I've actually found wood grain filler the other day. I could maybe have used it. Maybe using it on these things would make a difference. I don't know. It's like I just don't have the patience to do the finishing things. Like if you ever look up how to actually paint a guitar, you're probably talking about putting 20 coats of nitro on it, setting up an oven in your garage, and then sanding it, and you're taking like your 40 hours of work. It's like, I can't be bothered doing that. I can be bothered doing that if someone was going to buy the guitar for $2,500. But I mean, I'm selling the bucky casters for 120 quid and stuff like that. I can't be spending 3 entire days painting the thing. You know what I mean? You're getting it scooshed and then lacquered and then left for 2 weeks now, which is the lesson I've learned, because I've actually got the last bucky caster I did. I sent it down to a chap who's sometimes on this chat actually, and basically the paint hadn't dried. It'd only been 24 hours. The paint hadn't dried, and it'd been rubbing against the polystyrene inside the box. It just looked like someone had just gone with a chisel all the way around the front. It looked absolutely atrocious. So I've really got to make it wait like a week or two before trying to pack up a bucky caster. And that, but again, I'm talking about taking a couple of hours start to finish to paint a guitar, not doing all the grain filly stuff, which seems like so much effort. Especially if you put as hard as effort in, it doesn't really look that good. This is probably the most professional finish I've ever come up with on a guitar, and it's basically just sanded a lot. Nitro's nice, but so fragile. But nitro comes in, it's one of those things like it's not as good a thing as polyfinish. If they'd had polyfinish in the 50s when nitro was the only option, they would have used poly. They used nitro because it was the best they had. And I do have a few nitro guitars. My Schecters are nitro finished. And there's an argument to be made if it goes pure brittle, so it's better for resonance. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think resonance, as long as you've got like a good neck join and stuff like that, it's like. But I mean, they do show up dents and stuff, which is a bad thing, maybe. I've certainly got nothing against thick poly finishes. Most of the Japanese guitars I like, all these ones and stuff like that, are all, thick poly coating. That's how they manage to survive. And a fair amount of time, if you just polish them, they come back up. I feel Malco last week because that'd be been a bit brittle. I'm actually my bucky's going down very well tonight. Actually, I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying talking to everyone like that. 05 Ep4 and Les Paul with my main guitar during the drag it together, jam session without a cord, case or bag for years. I've been there not using a bag. For many, maybe about 5 years, I had an acoustic without the case, and all the dents and scratches are on that guitar because I never bought a case. And eventually I bought one for 20 quid. I used to have, I don't know, what, maybe 6, 7, 8 guitars and no bag. It wasn't until later on, eventually I had a hard case and a bass case for if I was going to the studio, so I had something to carry it in. The thing about this bass / guitar is it's actually really good. It's like the parts are really good. It's like, I believe this might actually be another Yamaha Pacifica. Is it? Why do I think it might be a Washburn? I can't remember. I did reshape the headstock to match this Washburn bass headstock though. So this isn't the original shape. This is the original shape. I reshaped that a bit to make it look more like this one. This is a Washburn access bass, so it's got the high mass bridge. It was originally active. I had an active circuit in it, but it was missing when I got the bass, so it's now just PGA. It's got this rotary switch, which gives you 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, it's basically the same wiring I put in my Epiphone EBO. So you've got fully down, you've got jazz bass pickup, P bass pickup, jazz bass and P bass, and then the last one is jazz bass and P bass in series, acting as one big pickup. This lever here is there's not that much on this, but it's just trying to remember what it is it does. So this is basically the rotary switch. Yeah, the rotary switch controls what the bass setup is. There's a master volume. This, I believe, is a 3-way for the guitar necks. So neck, both, bridge. That's a push-pull pot, which I'm not sure what it does, but I'd imagine it probably splits these into single coils. This is a bass neck, guitar neck, both neck switch. And it's got an output. Had many different variations of wiring this with having a stereo output so I could run the bass and the guitar amp together and all these things. And basically I decided the best way to do it is just to have a mono output that comes out, and I've got a switcher on the floor which can make me go bass amp, guitar amp. So I can just have, because you can't play a bass and a guitar through the same amp. Really, it's like a bass amp needs a bass, you want the full range, basically. So there you go, you've got your bass amp, and then, or an acoustic amp would be fine for the bass, and then you play the electric guitar, you don't want full range because it sounds horrible, you need a guitar amp, so you really need 2 amps anyway, and if you plug them both in, you can't really balance the volume between the two. You can sort of get away with it, but really you want to just have it coming out of this and going into a switch that switches between the bass amp and the guitar amp, and just going, oh, bass amp, go, guitar amp. It's the only way you can really make it work. Did you think much of, hey, Alex, think much of the Mesa? Yes, the Mesa was really noisy though. Like the buzzing before you even plugged a guitar in, just the hum. It could be valves, could be a bad power stage. It really, I couldn't use it in here because of the volume it goes at. But I'm really picky because I like to have this guitar amp on pretty much all the time. And even just now, I've got a problem with it. It's you're never going to hear that, but if you're on the normal channel, there's a bit of a whereas on the drive channel, it's not there. But the Mesa Boogie was really loud. I mean, it sounded great, I have to say. I mean, there probably is a certain level of, if you spend enough money, you're kind of guaranteed it's going to be good, sort of. Or you can spend little money and then just listen to folk like me who know what they're talking about and get them. The Sovtech is not retired. The Sovtech is my amp. The wee Laney is there just as a sort of playing in the house thing. To be honest, the two of them sound very similar. The wee Laney is a fan. I would totally recommend anyone get the wee Laney. Either that one, that's a VC15. There's also an LC15, which is very similar size. Apart from that, it's got like it's 2-channel instead of 1, and it's got an effects loop in it. It's got a Jensen speaker and a leather handle, and it's just a little bit more expensive looking, whereas the other one's a little bit more basic. It's only got 1 channel on it, no effects loop, and it's got like a plastic handle. But they're awesome. I keep looking out for them. I've seen a couple of them go for like 40, 50 quid, and I've tried to buy them and they've been gone. I'm totally going to try and find one just to do a comparison between the two. But I mean, really the only amp I would ever really need. Even I've gigged it. It runs an external speaker cabinet, and it's like 15 watts. Is 15 watts all tube is loud enough to gig with, unless you're not in my Black Sabbath band, because Craig has a really expensive amp. It sounds phenomenal, but I mean, the amount of money that's in it is just insane. I mean, it sounds great though, and it does. I don't know how much. I hate to think how much it costs. And the Sovtech, you don't get Sovtechs anymore. I've not seen any for sale for ages, and the last one I saw was £1,000. Whether they are good or not, it's maybe more just like because they get well regarded on YouTube forums, and the guy in JHS Pedals has a big pile of them sitting behind him. He's got I think he's got everyone in America. I think he just buys every single one that comes up. I would definitely buy. Would I buy another one? If it was the price I paid for that, yeah, I would. Fantastic. It seems like the Mesa is one of those amps that only suits being cracked. To be honest, it was working really well for what I did. I thought Mesa Boogie, oh, that's going to sound like the Darkness and Metallica and stuff. And what I was using it for didn't. Alex, you've got an LC15R. That's the one I was talking about. That was the one that I tried to buy when I got that one. That's what I thought it was until the guy showed up, because he was wanting more money than what I would offered for it. It was a bizarre thing. It was actually my pal Wayne down south runs the reason I know him is from Grant Guitars, made in Glasgow, or made in Japan, imported to Scotland or something is what the title page was. That's how I know him, because I had a Grant guitar. Ended up chatting away, now best pals. And where was I going with that? Yes, someone contacted him on that page and said, I'm looking to sell an amp. Is it okay if I sell an amp on this page? And Wayne was like a modern Laney amp. This is kind of like for grad guitars from the 70s. Is not really. Where are you? My pal's looking for one of them, and he was from Livingston, and I swapped it for a bass that I put a Land Rover badge on and 50 quid, something like that. The bass was a straight swap, and I said, oh no, it's worth more than that, because I thought it was the LC15 that Alex has got there. That's a VC15, so basically I got it, and it was exactly what I wanted. But I do totally recommend the other one. The reason I knew that is because my pal Jim had one, and he was forever having loads of amps. He always had all the effects on full bung, and then one time he bought this wee Laney, and it was just like, oh, what's that? That sounds like my Sovtech. And it was just like, I thought it was absolutely phenomenal. And the fact that you could run it you could get distortion stuff out it at in the house volumes, whereas the Sovtech, it's a 60 watt half stack. You can't get distortion out it unless it's up at drum kit level. Fantastic. Were Red Bear Sovtech made? I think the name is Red Bear. I don't know what Red Bear are. Is there not a rap pedal called a Red Bear? I don't know. I know the Sovtech story comes about from the Big Muff pedal when the Soviet Union collapsed. The guy from Electro Harmonics went to the submarine in Star City. Star City? It's written on the back of the amp. And said, can you make this electrical component circuit? And it was a Big Muff. And then that's where the Sovtech Big Muffs came from. And they were very highly regarded. You can now get reissues, but original ones are very expensive. Same sort of principle with the amps. But the Russians didn't necessarily have all the parts at exactly the same values as the Americans could get to make the Big Muff. So they went, hey, we don't have 1.2K resistor. We got 1.4. We use that. And they just did that all the way through with all the parts. Same as with the Sovtech. It's basically a Marshall JTM circuit, as in all the things are in the same place, but the values are all over the place. So it's completely different sounding amp. Sounds more like a JCM 800. In the original advert, it says it's for that Hendrix sound. It's meant to be a plexi, but I don't know how much that works, because obviously you start going in and you go up here. Yeah, well, instead of having a 10 picofarad capacitor, we'll use a 9, and then instead of having the 1.1k resistor, we'll use a 900, and then and then basically everyone just ends up being totally different, but it's still a similar thing. Yes, I don't really know the dual rectifier. That's the one I'm aware of. That's the one with a bit of checker plate on it, isn't it? Again, I don't know. I don't have the ability to play that, so I want an amp that sounds reasonably good at quiet volumes. I think if you're going to go any lower than the 15 watt with a 10-inch speaker, you really start looking at modeling stuff. I've got a wee Black Star ID core that sounds fantastic at really quiet volumes. Even that wee Laney, okay, I'm not using the internal speaker, I'm using the 3x12 cabinet that's on the floor. It's very difficult to, I think, even if you've got the best 10-inch speaker or 3 12-inch speakers that are pretty rubbish but work, more is better, more is more. So I've been using that, but I mean, it does run fine on the wee internal speaker. It just sounds better with the 3. I think partly to do with the fact that they're direction as well. A Fender Champ 40. Is that a valve amp? I don't know enough about modern amps. I know the Fender Champ's the wee one, and that's the one where I will never work on an amp again, a valve amp, because my pal Jerry wanted me to fit I think it was just a tone control, or was it a master volume to it? And it looked dead simple, and I nearly get killed, so I'm never going into it again. But it was only 5 watt or something. He paid nothing for it. I think he paid something like 30 or 40 quid. I was like, you paid what? I was like, I don't think the guy knew what he had, and it's like I was looking up for 200 quid. But it sounded amazing. It really did sound phenomenal just on its own without anything plugged into it. It was great. It wasn't really quiet though. It was kind of struggling to sound at the volume I'm playing at just now. It couldn't really do that. It had to be louder to get the valves cooking and stuff like that. But fantastic. A Katana 50, yes. Well, the Katana 50s, again, it's like your modeling thing. Okay, it's not a small amp anymore, it's a 50 watt one, but when you turn it down, it can model with a spectral graphicalizer and all these things what an amp sounds like loud, and then make it quieter, which is kind of what the wee ID core ones does as well. So it's designed to be able to play at low volumes. Yes, I totally understand that. Whether it's going to compete when you're up against something like the Sovtech, you know, it's like me with a Sovtech, you with your Katana drum kit in the middle blasting off. I don't know how well it would. You might be able to tell the difference there. I don't know. Be interesting. Oh, it's nice at low volume. It's typical solid state when it's cranked up. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to be a tube snob because, I mean, it's like, but I kind of am. Can't really see past it. Not all tube amps are good, though. I have definitely played tube amps I don't like at all. Solid state seems to be amazing for clean, and I'm totally fine with solid state for bass. I do actually have a preamp. In fact, both these amps are very similar layout. There's got a valve preamp, so you've got like a choice where it's fully to the left, it's solid state, fully to right, it's all valve. For the preamp stage in the middle, it's about 50-50. I generally have it turned to valve just because I like the idea of it, but ultimately can't really tell the difference. Bass is a different sort of thing. Solid state bass, that's fine. But tube guitar, it maybe depends on what it is you're doing with it. Maybe if you use lots of effects pedals, or you're just after a different sound than what I want. I mean, I don't really know. Can I try to describe what I want to sound like? Somewhere at the heaviest, like something like Tony Iommi from the first, half a dozen Black Sabbath albums. John Fogerty, that kind of cleany, distorted thing. I suppose some Stones stuff, kind of going along those. That's where I want to be. I'm not really wanting to be Metallica or Megadeth or anything like that. So that's just too modern. A Champ from '74 needs repair. Oh dear, we're wishing up gloves. What I did actually here with my pal John, told me that's why you always see electricians with their left hand behind their back. Well, is that apparently because if you touch something like a pure high voltage lethal thing with your right hand, electricity finds its way to earth, so it goes down there, and through your feet, so you get a nasty shock. Whereas if you do it with your left hand, it goes down there, through your heart, killing you. So if you're going to be poking up something, use your right arm, which I'd never considered. Seems very obvious to me, but I'd never thought of that before. A Champ from '74 probably quite nice. Vintage Danger. That sounds like a good name for a podcast or a live stream, doesn't it? Vintage Danger. Again, that's one of the things I love so much about guitars, is the danger aspect, which isn't really there. I mean, you can't, provided you don't set your house on fire with a soldering iron or burn yourself with a soldering iron, it's not that dangerous. You know, it's like there's no electricity going through it. You can't really damage yourself or anything. It's not like I was thinking with a car. You know, it's like pure, I did a wee dodgy repair on the brakes. It was great. You're not going to do that if you're 70 mile an hour on the motorway and your brakes don't work. That's super dangerous. Where it's like, I did a wee dodgy repair on the pickup selector. It's like, the pickup selector's not working anymore. At least you don't die from it. It's just a bit awkward. Get electrocuted to death by JCM 800 is a pretty long way to go. Yeah, it's an 800 though. I nearly get killed by a 5-watt Fender Champ. So I mean, it's like 5 watts and they nearly died. Yeah. Aleni AOR. I don't know Aleni AOR or ProTube. A ProTube. I saw someone selling Aleni the other day. Is ProTube kind of like your valve state thing where it's like, it's got valve sound. So it's maybe got a valve in it. I mean, I noticed that the Marshall valve state do have a valve as a preamp thing. There is an actual valve in there, which does work, because if you take it out, it doesn't work. Also, when you turn these two bass amps on, if you've got it set to valve, it takes 20 seconds or something before the actual amp comes on, because the valve's got to warm up. So it's in there and it does work. I think ProTube is a sort of, it sounds like a tube circuit, not actually a tube. I'm not sure though. Can I play my BC Rich Mockingbird? I could do, yes. I need to look it out. It's got a stabby in the chest thing going on about it, the Mockingbird. Although I think it looks amazing, it's not the best design for a guitar. It's just a lot of the look of the Mockingbird is what it is. It's the look, and it's not. I don't think it would really matter whether I had a really expensive. Mine is quite an expensive Japanese one, but even not talking about the quality of the guitar, just talking about the actual shape. There's a bit here which kind of looks like something alien, like something H.R. Geiger counted, and it kind of, it's like somebody sticking their finger into your rib cage. And the neck, you can't quite get very high up on it, and it's because it's got the curved bottom. You can't lean it against a wall, and So I don't know whether I'm a Mockingbird fan. I do like the one I've got. I mean, it's a lovely guitar. You can tell as soon as you play it. It's actually got it from my pal for fixing. I saw it in Cash Converters in Glasgow. I saw it. I was up here. It was 100 quid, and I thought, 100 quid for a BC Rich, and it's got the R logo in the headstock. I think it's only the really expensive ones that have got the R logo. It doesn't say BC Rich. It's just got it's got the R on it. I think they're worth a lot of money. I didn't have any money at the time, and I went home and I told my pals, that's a BC Rich. I think it might be a really expensive one. And then when I went and saw him the following week, he's like, look, I bought the BC Rich. And at the time, I had a BC Rich Warlock, a Bronze Series one, and I was taking it over to show him. I'd be, what do you think of this? I had it playing really good, fantastic. It's like, I got that one, try this. And it was like, although the pickups didn't work, it was as soon as you just went, totally miles different league. I think it's called the JE series. But it's an expensive guitar. You can tell immediately before you even strummed a chord, you just pull the neck and go, this is a really expensive one, isn't it? Why is it so expensive? So that's my BC Rich thing. I not the biggest of BC Rich fans, but the quality difference between the Japanese ones and all. I've never played a real American one. They're £5,000, but the difference between the NJ series or the Japanese early ones and every other one I've played has been miles. And one of the ones I played was 900 quid in Guitar. It was looked like Slash's Mockingbird, and my Mockingbird was 10 times a guitar. Just honestly, you wouldn't even have to play it. You could just, here, put your hand on this neck. Oh, 10 times more expensive than the feeling. Just brilliant. Oh, but yes, I will look out my BC. I'm about due for a BC Rich video. I think I'll get the 3 of them out. 3, 4, 3. I think I've just got the 3 because I've got that scratchy stuff, the scratch repairer, which I'll be able to use on my Wave. Wave is fantastic. If only it was a bass, I would totally use that. So I've got the Wave, I've got a Bitch, and I've got the Mockingbird. I'll maybe have next week, Spiky Week. I'll look at the 3 BC Riches and the Aria Urchin, and they'll be my spiky guitars. AOR all valve came out in 78 up to CC series 98, right? I don't know, Lenny. VC series. Or VC, I think VC just stands for Valve Combo, maybe. Maybe the same thing. Mine is actually made in Milton Keynes though, which apparently is a big thing. As I said, all these things I found out after I'd bought it, because it wasn't until I got it when the guy turned up with it, I was like, yeah, I'm not that sure about paying. You're giving you a bass and 50 quid. And I was looking at it going, oh, that's not the amp I thought it was. It's like, oh, it's got more knobs on it, and it's got a leather handle. Hey, Paps, right now I'm using an Epiphone Electar, which I chopped to make a mini head. It's the cheapest amp going that they package with the bottom of the range Epis. Right, I don't know. I'd imagine is that the one that you get with... There's one that comes in the Slash pack, or it used to come in the Slash pack, which looks almost exactly the same as the Valve Junior, apart from I don't think it's Valve's. It's just got the styling of the Valve one. It depends what it is you're trying to do with it, but I totally get that. A custom-made cabinet made out of a wire reel. Sounds fun. Oh, and not mentioned my new amp, which I have no idea what it is. I don't know if he's still on. I got this off. He was going to chuck it out. Ta-da! It's like, is it a fire extinguisher? No, it's actually an amplifier. So it's got a speaker in the front, and on the back, it's got volume. It says mains, which seems to be like an XLR cable. And a microphone input, and a volume, and a wee switch, and a wee, I'd imagine that's a reset thing. Tested for electrical safety, something December 02. So, I mean, I really don't. Property of Morningside something. It's a portable sound things, Adabox Courier. Made in Scotland. It's a made in Scotland amp. So when I saw it, I thought it was some sort of... There used to be an amp called a cam, amp in a can, which kind of looked like this, but I'm going to have to make this work. I didn't realise it was actually made in Scotland. I really like that idea. It's just got a mic input and a volume control and a mains input, so some sort of PA system. Don't know, but should be fun. It's like, I'm terrible for not wanting to throw things away, and I think this guy is just realising that I'm one of those folk that doesn't like to throw things away, so rather than him throwing it away, he's getting to see it do something. Aria did do a knockoff BC Rich, because I remember reading about the NAMM show in about 1980, when BC Rich were there, Bernie Rico and his partners were there, and folk kept up and going, "Up here, your new import line is fantastic. Well done. They're really high quality, really liking it. Superb." And the two of them were like, "What import line?" And basically it was Aria. We're making Mockingbirds and Waves and stuff in 1980 that were basically almost as good as the BC Rich originals, apart from a tenth of the price. And then 2 years later, they hired them to make, they just got them officially hired, sort of thing. So you do get Aria BC Riches. And then the Nagoya, NJ series Nagoya Japan came out in 82, I think, like the following year or something like that. See, double now. Yay! Is that 2 necks or 2 bottles of Bucky? My Bucky's, I'm not actually wavering and wobbling about that much, considering I've drank. I think maybe what you want to do if you're going to drink Bucky is have a kebab. Yeah, I've nearly been on for my allotted hour. I normally aim for an hour, so probably I'll try. I don't think I can go for over 2 hours, but if you want to ask anything, keep going. We're laughing. How's that? I can't plug it in. It's got it's got what looks like an XLR input, and it says mains on it, and a bit of dymo labeler. So I mean, I really need to look up and see what it is it does. It's like, what's it say? A portable sound system. How can it be portable if you have to plug it into the mains? Does it have batteries in it? Adderbox Courier, made in Scotland. I don't know, but I kind of want to use it. Even if I've... I'm thinking acoustic amp. So it's obviously some sort of PA because it's got a mic input. So it'll probably work really well as an acoustic amp for when I'm using some sort of piezo acousticy driven thing. It might be really handy. It might also have some sort of battery in it. I have no idea. There appears to be a small input on it as well. 3 LEDs and a white button. I'll look it up. It looks quite pro though, and I like the idea. I wish it'd be smashing if it was battery operated. I don't think it is. Yeah, so Jay, sorry, I can't plug it in because I don't know how to plug it in. I'd need to use an XLR lead and then put a plug on it. So I'm going to have to take it to bits to find out exactly, make sure that because someone's written mains on it, does that actually mean that that's the mains input, or is that wee thing that I said looked like a line in the power socket? I'll need to find out about it. Yes, I mean, there is an element of the pedal platform thing, but even saying that, basically that's what I'm using the wee Laney for. I want to use the Softtech for before because I'm not playing them at anything like their capacity. But there's still a valvey thing going on, even if you're sitting playing an amp like the wee Laney, which is maybe at about 1 out of 10, and the Softtech, which is maybe at 1 out of 10 again, but at half wattage mode. It does do something when you stick in the rat pedal. It responds valvey wise. It's got a thing, whereas if you stick a rat pedal into a solid state thing, it doesn't sound good. I don't know what the term is for that. Carlton amps were Scottish. Am I thinking of Carlton? I might be thinking of Carlsborough. I don't know the Carlton. There is a guy, my pal knows, pal Dave, I used to know the guy that made Sonus amps, which I remember, they're meant to be the most amazing amps in the universe, not just in anything. They kind of look a bit like, I used to have an old halogen heater, well, not that long ago, like a sort of relatively modern, halogen, it kind of looks like that, where it's a sort of long, thin thing that sits on a swivel, but it's got a speaker in it and it's all tube. They're meant to be amazing, Sonus. That Bucky bottle sounds empty, crack it out and see what effect it will have. It's kind of getting there. Yeah, you can get lower than that. What was my first amp? My first amp was a Badger. Yep, it was a Badger, and before I bought it, I was aware of 3 other people who had owned it, and then I sold it at least, and I saw the 2 people that had it after me, and every time it got sold for a tenner. It was basically a wee 10-watt amp. It just had a volume and a tone. I'm sure it was crap. I saw one on Facebook, on eBay, because I thought Badger, because I've got a Badger guitar. I thought it'd be quite nice to buy my original amp back again. And it was like 60 quid or something. It was like, what? This is before you could get pedals, or you could get pedals when I was learning to play, but pedals were 50 quid. And it's like, my guitar wasn't 50 quid, so I'm not spending 50 quid on an overdrive pedal. My main thing was I wanted a guitar amp that had distortion. and the one I got was basically the same as what you get now as a BB Blaster. It's the bog standard tiny 10-watt amp that's been copied a billion times by different people, but it had a distortion channel. That was my amp. And then after that, I had a Laney, which actually sounded really good. I bought a Marshall pedal for it, a Marshall governor pedal, which sounded amazing through that Laney. I've still got the pedal still something. It just sounds rubbish no matter what to do with it. But with that Laney, it made that Laney sound like a Marshall. It doesn't make any other amp sound like a Marshall. It was I think it was a 30-watt 1x12 type cabinet thing. It was quite big considering it was only 30 watt. It was a good one. And then after that, I bought the Sovtech. And I had the Sovtech for 5 years, never used it because I couldn't be bothered turning it on and waiting for the valve to light up. So I basically just used a wee BB Blaster, shitty £20 amp on full saturation distortion. I just went a lot. When I started using the Sovtech again, what a difference that made. But that's it. So that's my entire amp history, apart from I've now got the wee Laney. Not been a huge... And my entire bass amp history is I had a Laney. It was a head with a graphic equalizer on it. I can't remember. I think it was 150 watt, something like that. And then I sold that and I bought that. And then that's been my bass amp until last year when I bought the wee one there. That was not really wee, it's 150 watt. So my amps are not a big thing for me. I just got one I like and that's me quite happy. Yeah, Badger. I think, am I right? I think it was it made by Piccolo? Or was it Piccolo the model? Was it maybe a Badger amp, but it was the Piccolo model, the cheapest one? It could have been an RSC Soundware back in 70s, everyone came out of Leeds. Very much could have been. You just don't get stuff made. I suppose you got to look at it just as the shipping things. I mean, the reason all your PA speakers and stuff, I mean, I've had quite a few ones that have got pure Scottish names. You know, ones that were made in Govan and Ibrox and stuff like that, because I think just there was no point in getting them made in Japan or China because it would cost you more than that to get them shipped over here. And you would just go to the smelting plant up the road to get your steel and all that stuff. You know, obviously stuff that just doesn't happen. You know, Thatcher killed all of that immediately. So there's no, I don't even know, do Marshall still make amps in Milton Keynes? I don't know, Delaney still make amps in Britain? Maybe, I think they maybe make, you know, the sort of boutique high-end stuff, hand-built stuff, which you can charge a lot for, but I don't think they make, you know, like, gigging musicians gear anymore. The same. Yeah, so we're coming up to the 2 hours. Thanks again. I'm now starting to feel a little bit pissed. That's pissed in the Scottish sense, not pissed in American. I'm not annoyed. I'm just a little bit drunk. So I might leave it at that. Again, thanks for everyone coming in and talking and keeping me going. Again, I started off with no plan and I've not really ran out of things to say. It's quite good. I'm enjoying having my double neck out again. I really just seriously work out some way of using it for something rather than just having it. At least I've got it now back on the wall, whereas at least you can see it. So thanks everyone, Jeff and Alex. Great chatting to you tonight, and everyone. If I forget your names, I'm sorry. I'm drunk, so that's my excuse. So rock on, everyone. Have a great week. I've got stuff going on this week. Lots of guitars. Maybe might do a fuzz pedally thing. And I'm kind of, I know it's a bit sad, but I'm kind of already looking forward to drinking next Sunday already. So rock on, everyone. I love you all. I'll catch you all later. See ya. Oh, obviously I have to say see you later, and then I have to spend a couple of minutes before I turn on my keyboard again so it actually responds. Yay! Rocking! JR, Jeff, Daniel, JP, the one who knocks, Alan, these are the last few people that have contacted me. Brilliant! Rock on, love you all. And off.